This week here on the channel, we have begun Rankings Week, where I will be going through every position in basketball, ranking the top 10 NBA players at each spot in 5 straight videos. I do this twice per year, once midway through the season and once in the off-season, in order to consistently adjust as players either improve or fall off. Things got started yesterday when I went through the point guards, so today we're now moving our focus over to the shooting guard position, which is a spot filled with young talent on the rise, along with some established greatness still sticking around. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Before we get into the top 10, we'll start with a few honorable mentions that just missed the cut, and the players that fall into this category are Tyrese Maxey, Klay Thompson, and DeJounte Murray. Tyrese Maxey continually gets better and better every year, and while his scoring production increases, he has managed to remain as one of the most efficient shooters in the whole league, shooting 43% from 3, which is lethal when you combine it with his blistering speed. Klay Thompson may not be the player he was pre-injury anymore, but his shooting stroke is still as reliable as ever, knocking down 41% of his threes on a very healthy volume of attempts, and when he gets going, he can still give you vintage Klay moments. Then DeJounte Murray was moved to the 2-guard spot last year to play alongside Trae Young, and it didn't quite go to plan, but as someone who was still putting up 20 points and 6 assists per game, he at least remains in the running. Now, to start things off at number 10 and work our way up to the number 1 spot, we have Desmond Bane of the Memphis Grizzlies. Bane is another young guard who, in all 3 seasons of his career so far, has taken huge strides of improvement across the board. He came into the league as a 3-point shooting specialist, but now he's a legitimate second option on one of the top teams in the Western Conference, who can be trusted as a shot creator, putting up over 21 per game, while making 41% of his threes still. He's maintained that high level of shooting even as his role in the offense has increased, and with Ja Morant suspended to start this upcoming season, he's going to be even more heavily relied upon early on. Next up at number 9, we have CJ McCollum of the New Orleans Pelicans. McCollum's first full season in New Orleans started strong as they began the year near the top of the standings, but as the season progressed, injuries occurred, cohesiveness wasn't necessarily always on point, and McCollum's individual play dipped a bit as well. He puts up about 21 points and 6 assists per game fairly efficiently, but they really need him to be more aggressive more often if they're going to get back into the playoff hunt in the West this upcoming season. Up next at number 8, we have Zach Lavine of the Chicago Bulls. Lavine's time in Chicago has seen him emerge into an all-star talent, being named to the event 2 times in a row before missing out on it this season. But despite battling through injuries, he's still been someone who can score the ball at a very high level. He's coming off of a year where he averaged about 25 points a night, shooting 49% from the field and 38% from 3. His overall shot-making ability makes him such a tough cover on a nightly basis, and all of that actually makes him an interesting trade chip to monitor. The Bulls tried to go all in on contending these last 2 seasons, but it hasn't resulted in anything but a first-round sweep and then a missed playoff appearance altogether, so rumors have already started swirling about Lavine potentially being available via trade, and if another contender acquires him, he could help take any unit to another level. Next up at number 7, we have Bradley Beal of the Phoenix Suns. Beal is one of the biggest names that was on the move this summer, as he was finally traded from Washington to Phoenix and is playing on a team now fully expecting to win a championship. His role on the Suns will be interesting because, spoiler alert, he's also now playing alongside another player who will be mentioned later in this very video, named Devin Booker, and the team doesn't really have a point guard anymore, so Booker and Beal, while shooting guards by nature, will probably have to assume some point guard duties. Beal may no longer give you 30 points a night like he's shown he could in the past, but he gives you pretty balanced production across the board, and his presence in Phoenix will make the lives of Booker and Kevin Durant a lot easier offensively. Next up at number 6, we have Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Edwards probably has the highest upside of all of the young shooting guards coming through the ranks right now, and could shoot up this list even further. At just 21 years of age, he's already been producing like one of the best shooting guards in the league, averaging an efficient 25 points per game, and in the playoffs this year, he had a bit of a coming out party against the Nuggets despite the team's series loss by averaging 32 points against the champions. He's as explosive of an athlete as it gets, he can comfortably score from all three levels, and with the front office vocally announcing that they're now planning to build their future around him, he may be in for an even bigger season this year. Up next at number 5, we have Paul George of the Los Angeles Clippers. Paul George's tenure with the Clippers hasn't gone quite to plan, but one of the biggest reasons why that's the case is due to health concerns. Both Paul George and teammate Kawhi Leonard have struggled to stay on the court in their time together in LA, and when they're both healthy, the team legitimately looks as good as anyone in the West, which is why things can be so frustrating. George is a smooth playmaker and shot creator who can create space and get his shot off with the best of them. He plays good solid defense, and he's just really good at most of the things that shooting guards need to be able to bring to the table. Next up at number 4, we have Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown just made news earlier today as he and the Celtics finally came to an agreement on a contract extension that made him the highest paid player in the entire league. Most assumed that this would be what would have to happen in order to keep him in town long term, but now that it's official, a lot of pressure will be on Brown to actually live up to that kind of paycheck. Last season he averaged about 27 points per game, but he needs to improve as a three-point shooter, and he plays very good defense as well, but now that he's making the kind of money that superstars make, we'll see if he can live up to it. Up next at number 3, we have Kyrie Irving of the Dallas Mavericks. Now that Irving is officially returning to Dallas, he will also be committing to more of a shooting guard role. Historically, I am well aware that he has been a point guard, but playing alongside Luka Doncic is going to change that, and honestly, Kyrie has always played with more of a score-first mentality anyway, so it's a role that he should continue to excel in, with a full offseason to gel with Luka and build chemistry in the backcourt. Kyrie finds his name in headlines for many various reasons, but when you strictly look at his production on the court, it's still as good as almost anyone's at the position. He just averaged 27 points, shooting 49% from the field and 38% from 3 last year. He's got one of the best handles, if not the best handles in the league, allowing him to get to his spots with ease, and I personally think the Mavericks will have a huge bounce-back season this year. Up next at number 2, we have Donovan Mitchell of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mitchell got traded to Cleveland a year ago, and in his first year teaming up with Darius Garland in the backcourt, he had the best season of his career. As a Cavalier, he was putting up 28 points per game, shooting the ball 48% from the field and 39% from 3, exploding for huge scoring nights on a more regular basis than he would when he was in Utah. The race for the top spot at the position was actually pretty close, but what made Mitchell get edged out is the fact that he had a pretty poor showing in the playoffs this year, and that matters. And finally, at number 1 on the list of the best shooting guards in the NBA, we have Devin Booker of the Phoenix Suns. I try not to have teammates on the same list, as we saw with Irving's inclusion on this list and Luka Doncic being included as a point guard, but because we haven't actually seen Booker and Bradley Beal play together yet, it's hard to say who will be more of the primary ball handler, so I made an exception. Booker made a leap this year that I don't think was discussed enough to solidify himself in the top spot, and in the playoffs. Even though the Suns lost to the Nuggets in the second round, Booker was unbelievable and did all that he could to try to carry his undermanned crew. Booker also averaged about 28 points per game in the regular season, and in the playoffs, that number rose to 34 per game. And now that the Suns have even more firepower at their disposal, they're the favorites to go all the way in the eyes of many for a reason. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would rank these shooting guards right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.